Review products provided by PlayStation. Hello, everybody. Daniel Bloodworth here, along with Brandon Jones and
Hey.
Brad Ellis.
Hi.
We're here to finally talk about the PlayStation 5 in some detail. Yeah, for sure. Our final hardware impressions. There are some things that are not final, though, that we can't talk about. So just to give you a heads up off the top, we can't talk about the media stuff, entertainment apps, the store, PlayStation Plus, or PlayStation Now. They're still working some magic on that stuff, and I don't think there's anything to worry about. It's just they want to change some things here and there. But I'll start with the hardware itself in terms of the size. I'm curious about you, Brad, since you've actually got one at home.
Yeah.
Where the heck you managed?
It's
to fit
massive,
this in?
man. I have a space where I have my Xbox One X and my PS4 Pro just in like nice little organized spots, and I got the PS5 and it's just too big to fit in there. I'm like, man, I had to move stuff on my desk to accommodate for it. It's like the biggest console I can recall from besides the OG Xbox maybe. It's
I think
massive.
it's bigger than that. I really
it's
do.
massive.
Yeah, I'm curious. Are you vertical or horizontal?
Vertical.
Okay.
Gotta have to be vertical, yeah.
Yeah. So
It looks weird to me horizontal.
Yeah.
It obviously it's great that you can do it, but I think it looks way better standing up.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to the base and setting up the base, which I think may be a bit of a mistake.
The base? I'm not even using it.
Yeah.
I haven't even used it, yeah. It's fine without it. Just sitting there.
You're gonna make some people nervous hearing that.
Hey,
But,
that thing is heavy as a rock. It ain't moving.
But it's tall. There's a lot of surface area to kick.
I know.
But it's basically recommended in either position. And so for the one in the studio, I've put it on horizontally, but there's a little bit of a problem there because when you put it vertically, it's got this nice little screw that comes inside of it, and you screw it in. It's nice and tight and it's secure. When you put it on the horizontal position, there's just this clip on the back, and then it just sort of flops from below the clip. And so I when I was setting up the little capture unit that we use, I just moved the PlayStation to the right a little, and the base popped off. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing, particularly and then in comparison with the Xbox Series X, which is right next to it, it's got a base on the bottom, it's got feet on the side. You don't have to screw with it. It's just there, like a normal console typically would. Well, I guess Sony's always had optional stands to put it vertical.
Since 2, I think.
When I came into the office to see it, the Xbox crept up on me because I came in and was like, oh, here it is. Here's the DualSense, and look at this big beast of PlayStation 5. Where's the Xbox? Oh, there it is. It's I saw the green top, little sneaky Xbox. Just we were talking about just the empty of the empty dark black that surrounds that thing. It's just it's like a void almost. Whereas the PS5 is unmissable. You're not gonna
Right.
The other thing that's a little bit weird about putting the standard edition horizontally is there is a pretty sizable lip above that disk drive slot.
Yeah.
And so putting a disc under there it's not quite awkward, but it's a little strange.
It definitely feels like vertical is their intent with this system.
Right.
They're well, we gotta do something so people can do it horizontally.
Yeah, in terms of visual design, it seems like vertical and digital is what they went for, and it's oh, we gotta put a disk drive on it. Okay.
Yeah.
We gotta put it horizontally.
Put it on,
okay. But noise and heat. Heat, I will say, I've not had any. It's slightly warm. It's not even a thing. Noise is definitely a lot quieter than PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X or even the original PlayStation. It is really pretty quiet. I don't think it's quite as quiet as the Series X, though.
Oh, okay.
At least, I don't know what your experience has been, but I've had to where, when I'm playing different games, I can hear, a little bit of a hum and a buzz coming from the console.
Yeah.
And, Spider-Man in particular, I'll hear, almost this fluttery kind of aspect to it. Like it sounds different in when I'm playing different games.
Yeah, I haven't heard it too much. I think at Blood I'm so used to the PS4 Pro, mine, which sounds like a rocket ship, and I'm just like so thankful, like crying tears of joy at how quiet it is compared to that last system.
Yeah, and I compared the Xbox One X to a hairdryer. Basically what it sounds like in my room.
And the way we have it set up in the office, it was on a table right next to me, so it probably would be a little bit farther away if I was setting it up at home. So, but it was, it definitely was a noticeable. I kind of snickered because you said that before when I even got to check it out, and so when I got Spider-Man up and running, I was like, oh, that's the that's the flutter that Blood spoke of.
And then when you have a disc in there, and this is true for both systems, like you do hear the disc drive spinning.
Yeah.
Thankfully, though, it is more of like a white, soft noise. It's not that intrusive and it's not that loud. But fair point to note that, like, even though it is way quieter, it's not just like
completely silent. Yeah.
Another question that came up a lot for both systems was 1440p support. And as far as I can tell, there is not
none
on the PlayStation 5.
Not the default that we've seen, not right now at least.
Yeah.
What is it?
It skips straight from 1080 to 4K.
Yeah, 1080i, 1P,
yeah,
4K. Is there 720p? I can't remember. I don't think there was.
I think that there is. I feel like there's 4. Maybe the fourth one was like
I know
automatic.
We talked about this, but I can't remember. It was a while ago. But yeah, sorry, no 1440p, which is kind of a bummer. I wish it had that because my computer monitors are 1440p, and I play on them sometimes, so it would be nice if it had it.
And then for the controller... definitely check out our controller impressions that we put up was it a week ago? It feels forever now.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk about it a little bit more because we couldn't do anything other than that one level in Astrobot.
Right.
I don't want to spoil all of Astrobot either, but I think we'll just show the GPU jungle, which is an amazing level in Astro's Playroom. And yeah, I think there was some really cool stuff that was going on in that level, and particularly there is you get into this monkey suit, and you rock climb by shifting back and forth on these handholds, and the adaptive triggers there are pretty cool because you grab with the trigger and then you kind of tilt with just the motion controls on the controller itself. But then you get a couple of spots where there are these breakable handholds. And so you've got to push the trigger just ever so
very lightly
to grab onto those.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. And then there's also these kind of gymnast bars that you swing from. And you actually swing by moving the controller
He's spinning it.
And gear up and then let go. And then Jones, I know you're gonna love this. The bow in Astrobot. So you when you pull back on that trigger, you get this nice little clicking into place feeling, pop 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 pop. And then when you aim, it's just motion controls like Splatoon 2.
Oh, cool.
But here's the thing, Jones. It doesn't do motion controls until you pull that bow all the way back.
Cool.
It waits for that moment, and it was such a natural experience to me. Probably because I'm a Splatoon 2 player, but it was so natural to me that I didn't realize that's what I was doing until a couple minutes later. It's oh wait, I'm using motion controls to aim.
That's cool. That's cool.
I think because motion control works well
in
that kind of scenario. Because I was doing the same thing in Blood, where I was like, oh, this feels good. It reminded me of kind of obviously I did play Splatoon 2, but I was thinking of Breath of the Wild also, kind of when you aim like that, you can do that also.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, with the Bo Jones, I was just thinking, I'm like, dude, Jones is going to love this with Horizon. I can see it in the future.
And another thing we talked about with Astro that we're not going to spoil, but there's a lot of cool references throughout the game.
A lot.
GPU Jungle, I think, has got to have. There's one level I haven't been to yet, but I feel like GPU Jungle's just got to...
GPU Jungle's, loaded.
Tackle it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Before we get into Spider-Man, though, I do want to, let people know that there are different settings for all of these controller features for the haptics and the adaptive triggers. I know some people are, worried. It's am I going to, stress out my fingers, or if I have, tendonitis or something and it, irritates it, or arthritis. But they have different settings for the haptics and the adaptive triggers where you can set them strong, medium, weak, or just turn them off entirely. And then there's also like a volume control for the speaker, which I think, Brad, you said you just kind of turn the speaker off.
Yeah, because
right
I
away.
usually play with headphones most of the time, so there's no point for me, really.
Yeah, I think if you're not using headphones, the speaker does a lot to augment the haptics.
Sure.
It really like blends the two into feeling like they're the same effect. So that idea of like walking across metal or something, like it just comes out. And the speaker's not so low quality as like past speakers that it's noticeable.
Yeah, it definitely seems better than last gen speaker.
And the other thing is, I think if you're using the mic, it'll automatically shift all of that stuff to weak. So I guess it's not picking up on the mic as much with the vibrations and everything. But I want to talk to you guys, because you guys have both played through Spider-Man, and I want to talk to you guys about how the Spider-Man haptics are. The only thing I really was able to check out was like that opening with the subway, and that was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, there's various cinematic moments, obviously, and just a lot of that seemed to have like an intentional layering to it, where like what would normally just kind of be a big boom in some cutscenes, just like they seem to be accenting things. That one in particular, because it doesn't take very long. It's just in the opening to get to on the subway. But there's just a lot of fun accents that kind of like I would smirk. It wouldn't necessarily like immerse me in a sense, but I would always be like, oh, what was the, oh, okay, I see what you were doing, that one little specific moment or something, and I couldn't tell. Sometimes you'll see like a horror movie in 3D and they're like so blatantly like, moving the bat like toward the camera, like I don't know if they just wrote that into Miles Morales and then wanted to figure out a fun way to do it, or if from the get-go they were like, we need more creative haptic opportunities in this. But I think the main thing for me was the swinging. There's like a clear 50-yard line on that depress where you actually don't need to pull it all the way down, but that there's like a little extra pressure right at the end, kind of like you're like from that moment of like the first half of it's like releasing the web, and then the actual hold is when he grabs onto it. And it was funny because I immediately was just like, okay, stubbornly, like all the way down, and then it took like an hour or two before I was like, oh, I'm working way too hard at this. And so it'd be interesting. I wish I had messed around with the settings. I'm curious if I had turned it on to like weak, like what that would have felt like, because I just went on by default on everything. But I imagine when they saw this controller, they were like, okay, what's web swinging gonna feel like? That's clearly something that we need to
definitely
to have to be unique.
The biggest standout to me, it's been a little bit since I've played it, but the biggest thing I remember is definitely the web slinging, like Jones said, and the zip Jones with like the quick zip, you could kind of feel it. Some of the combat I think felt kind of different too also. I played like a lot of it though, so it kind of becomes normal and routine to me after a while, so I kind of like don't notice it as much, but when I first started playing it, for sure, I was definitely like, whoa, this feels a little different in some areas. But the swing, because you do that so much, is definitely the most noticeable.
Combat's good because there's a lot of situational awareness stuff. So like one issue I saw that people were talking about in the first game, and with like Avengers that just came out actually, was like stuff's coming in from off screen and I didn't know that guy had fired a rocket at me or some enemy was flying in. There's a lot of very quick enemies in the game, and so it's nice to kind of feel those rumbles, or naturally pick up the like, like a bunch of grenades were just dropped, and the visuals, like you were saying, blood with the rumble in the speaker, just kind of like it's not really just that something stands out on its own and how it blends with everything else. So it doesn't feel like one thing is doing all the heavy lifting by itself.
Yeah. The one thing, and this is purely a Spider-Man implementation thing, and you're talking about like when do we use it and when do we not. But the one thing that felt a little weird to me is I felt like sometimes in a cutscene I would feel things that I didn't feel like I should be feeling. Like an enemy would come in and like hit the ground, and I'm like, I'm feeling the enemy hit the ground, and who am I? Like, am I supposed to be feeling that everybody's
they're trying to do like that,
or am I supposed to be feeling Miles?
Blood gets straight existential whenever he's rumbling. He feels a little pulse. Who am I? Who is this? What is this? It is kind of blurring the line between watching a movie and playing a game. That like you're feeling impacted by the thing that you're witnessing, even though Miles might not be close to it or not.
Right. Somebody had asked, we collected some questions, so I have some things related to these topics. Somebody had asked if the haptics and stuff work on PS4 games, and as far as I know, they don't and they won't. I don't know if you came across anything that didn't feel like just normal Rumble to you,
No,
Brad? 'Cause I know
nothing
you
really.
did PS4 games.
I played a lot of PS4 games. I didn't really notice anything like that.
So I don't know if it's possible, but
Maybe if they update it, I guess.
It doesn't
but
seem likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, the PS5 controller does not currently work on the PS4. From when I tried to use it, it will charge on the PS4, but
Yeah.
you can't just plug that sucker in and go at the moment. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on controller longevity, especially Brandon, since you were there for like a whole day. Did you have any did you have to swap controllers? Was that battery getting low?
I swapped it, but just for safeties, just so I had a natural stopping point. I think I like ordered food or something, and so I was just like, might as well swap controllers. But no, I didn't notice any hiccups or any connection issues or anything on that front.
I turned the light bar down even more on this one, but it seemed to last. I haven't come close to dying yet, and I've played for hours of stuff. I don't know if it's more demanding on certain games, maybe. Like if you're playing a game that really takes advantage of all the controller, maybe. But I played like a lot of Spider-Man, and I was never like, oh man, my battery's getting low. But I would play for like, 4 hours and be totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, it's like,
yeah, because it's like, how do you judge that? Like, just it's sitting there, or are you like actively using it?
Right. But it's good to hear though that it hasn't been a problem so far. So
no, yeah, it's been pleasant.
Getting into some of the menu stuff. So the PlayStation 5, it's got some elements that are familiar to the PS4 and PS3 and Vita. Well, now Vita is a weird thing, but PlayStation.
The bubbles, yeah.
The portable though had a similar thing.
Cross media bar, yeah.
But it's got a lot of different little things going on. So if you just tap the button, you get this overlay on the bottom of the screen where you can go through and go to a bunch of different functions. You can look at your notifications. You can go through like sound settings and stuff. And something that I thought was pretty cool is if you hit the options button when that's up, there are actually like several other things that you can add onto that list, or some of the things that are on it that you can take off, so you can really like customize that. Yeah. And stuff like accessibility options, you can put that right down there. And so if like, hey, sometimes you think the subtitles on a game are too small, you just go into accessibility options, make the text bigger.
That's a really cool feature. I really like that.
Another thing that I saw down there is for the notifications, the pop-ups, there is a little toggle to mute notifications. So that way you don't have to go all the way into your notification settings and change things. And there are like a whole list of different circumstances of like, okay, do you want notifications for this thing during videos and gameplay and broadcast or not? And so there's like just like all kinds of different variables that you can set there. But I do appreciate that right there on that little bar, you can just mute them temporarily. It's like, hey, you know what? Shut up. And then turn them back on later. Then holding down the PlayStation button takes you to the home screen. And now this is the thing where I'm trying to rewire my brain, because
it's like the reverse of PS4.
PS4 and the Xbox interface, when you hold down that button, that's basically when you're done for the day, right? You hold down the button, you put it in rest mode.
That took me a
second.
second.
Now it's like, tap the button, go to power on the little bar.
Then rest mode, yeah.
And then, get to it from there. But the home screen has, it's got a really clean interface. You've got your game boxes, essentially. And then when you mouse over one, then, you can go down to see like the different activities and like news items and trailers and things like that. One thing that I noticed is that people are asking like, how do I tell the difference between like PS4 games and PS5 games?
Oh,
and so they actually will say like PS4.
Yeah, it'll say PS4.
The title up there. And then if you go all the way over to the game library, that's actually really nice, because PS4 will be like a little icon over top, but there is a lot of filters and ways to just kind of like look through your game, so that like if you want to look alphabetical, or if you want to just filter by PS4 games. They even had PS3 games on a checklist, and I'm like, I guess that's PlayStation Now will let you get PS3 icons, probably. So that was interesting. One thing that I think Huber will probably be disappointed in is there doesn't seem to be any way to create like custom folders.
Yeah, I was trying to mess with that. I didn't notice any way to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. Like I was actually actively
But it's like
trying to do it.
your things are separate now. It's like you have your games folder and a media folder, so they're all not on the same thing already.
Right.
I mean, we haven't gotten to mess with that, but there's 2 different folders, so hopefully we'll be able to do more.
One thing I was fumbling around with and found. And I should note that the games library screen and the trophy screen are both way faster. Like
I mean, everything is like faster.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's like the PlayStation 4, like things that just didn't feel like they should have any loading time, just lagged and took forever.
Yep.
And now it's like you can go through your game library pretty quickly.
Yeah. Speaking of trophies, though, there's no longer like the trophy tab you go over. You go to your actual profile.
Yeah.
Click on it, then there's trophies right there. So they just took that off the bar, I guess.
That screen's a lot different too. There's like big cards for each trophy, and then you have to kind of click into them to see what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then there's options. So like you know how it takes screenshots and like little video clips. Like you don't have to like keep that stuff on. Like you can switch that stuff off if you want to. Yeah. Pressing the create button brings up a pretty obvious menu that shows where you can do a recent clip, a screenshot, or a new recording. And then there's also settings to like change the function of like what pressing the button does versus holding it. One thing I got into that Brandon I told you about like immediately is like the Xbox 360. The Xbox One and the Series X do not have this as far as I can tell. There are global settings for your games. So you can go into your PlayStation 5, you can set that camera to be inverted every game, and it's done. It's taken care of. They've also got difficulty settings. So I think
it could like auto set it.
Cool.
Yeah, 5 or 6 different settings that you can pick from that are there. Subtitles you can turn on from there. Performance or resolution mode. If you have a preference that spans every game, you can turn it on from there. And then I think there was also something with language of like. Yeah, I think I didn't mess with that one too much, but I think you might be able to like if it's like a Japanese game, just like always have it in Japanese first and then English subtitles. But I didn't get into that setting particular. I didn't have something I felt like was a good test for it. There's also a separate setting of for spoiler warnings. This is something that PlayStation's kind of doing now. That's a little new. Where if someone sends you a clip or you see something in an activity feed, they'll put like a little like spoiler wall. So that you don't get spoiled automatically, and you can have those spoilers be identified by the developer and have the developer will flag all of their games and say, hey, this stuff is spoilers, put up the flag here if somebody shares that screenshot. Or you can set it to where it will be anything that's past your current progress.
Yeah, which is great. So
that's clever.
So you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because some people are more sensitive about you know, what they consider a spoiler versus what the publisher considers or what we consider.
Man, I'm thinking about.
We've run into it all the time. It's like
I'm thinking about like Atlas, what they're going to be doing with their spoilers, man.
But something like like F1 it would just be turned off. It's like they're not like car spoilers or something.
One thing we haven't talked about with the user interface is the cards.
Right.
When you're playing a game, and I've seen that I didn't see that much going on with Spider-Man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with Astro's Playroom, it had a lot more of like the activity cards and everything. And so there's recent clips that you've taken from the game. There's the news panel, the trophies, and then the activities pop up. So it's a little weird because some of those things might not be what you want first. You might have to scroll to the right a bit to get to, like, if you just made a clip or something that you want to look at. And it didn't seem to be any way to, like, shift around the order
I was trying to
them.
see if you could organize them, maybe, like, hide certain cards that you don't care about or something, but I did not see anything.
But the activities thing is interesting because with Astrobot, basically, like, each level is sort of split into sub-levels. And they all have, like, for the activity cards, they all have sort of their own percentages. So you've gotten 85% on this level, meaning that like how many secrets and stuff that you found in there, the collectibles. And it's really nice because whether it's from the game itself or whether you're just on the home screen on the menu and you've been playing something entirely different, you can go to that activity card and it will like just instantly boot you right into part of the level.
That was as advertised, but that worked.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it actually worked.
And the load times are really fast for that. And like even like when starting Spider-Man, Brandon, like I don't know if you ever had to quit and restart, but that is just like snap.
It's really fast. Yeah,
I had to. Yeah, it was. It was funny. Again, a little more inside baseball in these things, but like I gotta get music, for the Spider-Man review. And so one track I noticed was just in the menu. It was literally just mousing over Miles Morales. Like, yeah, I want to play that game. It started. It's got a hip hop beat, and I'm like, I don't remember that from the menu. So I'm like, yeah, I might as well get it. It's like it is music surrounding the game, and so I'm like starting it, and it keeps just quick resuming right where I was, and I'm like, no, replay the opening because I need it. So like actually telling the game like stop. Restart. It took me a second because everything is just so quick. Everything is so set to be tuned to like whatever. I want to get you directly to that experience, and I'm like, because for production purposes, I need you to be slow. It's funny, or I'm just used to that. So like it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, getting used to how these games work.
But what is important to note, because yesterday we talked about the, how big of a deal Quick Resume is on Series X.
Yeah,
there is not anything really like that on the PlayStation 5.
No.
There's a standard suspend mode that you're used to, and the loading times are very fast, but once you're out of a game, you're out of the game. Like once you go from Spider-Man to Astrobot, Spider-Man is shut down.
Yeah, it's shut down, yeah.
And the activity cards are actually a nice way to sort of bypass that, because Brad, one of the things I was telling Brandon about with Xbox was like going through and testing out all of these different games, like even though the Series X can load things really fast, it doesn't matter if the publisher has put like 2 minutes of logos at the start of their game that you can't skip.
Yeah, that does. Yeah.
So, but the activity cards do let you just bypass all of that. It's like, no, we're not going to show you the intro of Astrobot and the menu screen. It's like you're just going to be right there. So that is one way to get around it. The other thing with the comparison is like with Series X, Quick Resume works like even if you like power off your Xbox and take it with you somewhere else and boot it back up. Whereas with PlayStation, I tested it, and yeah, once you turn that thing off, like suspend mode it's gone. So it sort of doesn't matter as much with how quick the load times are, but with Quick Resume, like I could definitely see that being a bit addictive if you are. Like if you're playing things, like I was telling Brandon, if you're playing things with dailies, if there's something that shows up on Xbox that's like Animal Crossing, and I'm going to be in there every day, skipping over that introductory stuff would definitely be a big help. I did some little quick tests on load times, so how long to boot from cold from the menu. So it looked like trying to skip through all of that crap, it took me about 15 seconds to get to gameplay on both Spider-Man and Astro. And then if I went to Astro from the activity card, it was about 8 seconds. So
yeah,
that's even load times. The Spider-Man were like 4 seconds. It was literally just fade to black, fade up. Like And it's funny, like they both Watch Dogs Legion and Spider-Man I played Watch Dogs on PC. They both have subways, like you take a subway somewhere, and Watch Dogs just drops you off in the subway. Whereas I like Spider-Man, he's like running up the stairs. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah,
the game knows, like, get back onto that pavement.
One thing I did want to touch on, just because people had asked me about, was accessibility options, and there is a pretty robust menu there, just from the little quick guide bar, whatever at the bottom. You can set some things really fast from that, but then there's like even more detailed stuff that you can get into. So you can do colorblind settings, larger fonts, and you can even like remap buttons on the controller. So it's got a lot going on in that, just in the interface itself. The one thing that I'm excited for, but I'm not sure that I get, is 3D audio.
Sure, yeah.
Because it seems to be only turned on when you're wearing headphones, for one, which I thought that they were going to somehow do it with TV speakers too, but I guess I was wrong about that, or maybe I was confused
Maybe
as to what
you
they were
probably
describing.
need like the surround sound that could actually do that though, or something.
It should. I think it
capable
should
of
work with any kind of stereo headphones.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really kind of. There's like this menu where it's like set the setting to be the level of your ears, and I'm like, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
And I would raise it up and down, and I'm like, it's just changing the pitch. It doesn't feel like it's moving. It just feels like it's getting higher or lower. And as far as I know, it didn't say I needed like a specific type of headphones, but maybe you're right. Maybe something like the Pulse headset would work a little bit better with it. So I just don't know if you got any kind of sense of more 3D-ness to the audio. Like, obviously, I could hear position as I'm like walking around
I mean,
Spider-Man,
I could hear that kind of stuff.
I feel like you could do that anyways.
Yeah, I'm used to 7.1 surround sound usually when I play games, so I don't know, like, if I was like, whoa, the audio is so different. I'm not an audio expert by any means, but it didn't seem like any different to me. I mean, it's good, but I didn't notice something different.
Yeah, so potentially more to say on that front as we try more games.
I'm sure people will get into that, yeah.
Speaking of things that there's more to say on, Brad, you have been running a tear through backwards compatibility.
Yeah, a lot of games.
PS4 games.
I've played a lot of PS4 games.
Yeah, Bloodborne runs the same.
Bloodborne is pretty much the same. It's a little faster, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Slightly faster.
With the load times, or?
Yes, with load times. But some of them are like 2 seconds faster. One of them, like from a certain location of the game back to the dream, was on my Pros 24 seconds, and on the PS5 it was 12 seconds, so like half the time.
Yeah, that's great.
But like some of it was the same, like your death loading time was the same. So small tweaks like that. But some of them were dramatically different. And one that the most dramatic was Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
That's a good one to be dramatic, because those are some load times, dude.
Like I did a load time to this area called the Guiding Lands on my Pro, and it was 1 minute and 53 seconds to load in. And on the PS5 it was 39 seconds.
Yeah. There you go. That's a result.
Yeah. Days Gone loads like from the boot up menu is 43 seconds compared to 1:28.
Yeah, that's
we got
just as huge, yeah.
Title screen to gameplay 22 seconds on PS5 as opposed to 1 minute on Pro. So like it's pretty noticeable. I did Ghost of Tsushima too. Like the load times are pretty much the same right now, but it ran in 60 frames. Like same with Days Gone too. Like they run way better now.
Days Gone is a game that needed to run better. So that's actually really
it's very nice. Yeah, it's great.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, Sekiro is 60 now also.
Yeah.
Opposed to 30, which is awesome. But I'm not too sure about load speeds on that.
Right.
I tried Final Fantasy VII Remake. I didn't notice anything really different.
Did you find the door?
I did. I actually went to the spot and looked at the door because I knew people would ask me about it, and it looked the same. I'm sorry. There is no graphic enhancements.
People would ask me about it.
Yeah, I knew people would. I don't know about the load times. I didn't do extensive testing on that. And I tried like Jedi Fallen Order. It seemed the same also. So I guess it's going to be case-by-case basis.
I will say one thing, I think for me, like I kind of have this like extra weird layer that I have to go through to where like, I don't have a 4K TV at home. So just like going into the studio and playing things in 4K, and it's like, oh, this looks like really great. It's like, well, would this look great on the PlayStation 4 Pro?
Yeah.
But I did pop in Horizon, and like, man, it just such a pretty game, and like just so many
HDR
fine
now.
details and like hair and everything. It's really, really cool to be able to jump in and appreciate. Like even if like there's, because I was saying this with the Xbox too, like Doom Eternal feels like it's one of the best games I was looking at, even though it's the Xbox One version running on the Series X. It's like it lets you appreciate the way these games look more because like they're running as smoothly as they possibly can. Some games are going to be frame capped or whatever, but seeing them at 4K and at max frame rate really does help. Yeah, you can't try out PlayStation VR yet because of that adapter thing.
No, I need an adapter to play. Yeah.
Oh, right, not yet.
Which is funny because like they sent us the new camera, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's like I can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
I guess stream
I
with
didn't
it.
think
Maybe.
about that. Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah,
I
you
don't know.
can't. Well, I mean, it's, yeah.
You play Jackbox
today, but
Play
yeah.
Jackbox.
We should talk about how like loading your games on there and
Oh,
everything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Just transferring everything for sure.
Yeah, well, even when I just booted up the console originally, I'm signed in. You know what I mean? All your games are there. All the ones you own digitally, just boop, download it. I had Bloodborne. I put the disc in, just whoop, worked immediately. Nothing to jump through. As terms of like my save data, how I did it was I upload everything to the cloud, and I just download it. It's super easy. And I was like, oh, great. I don't know about any other methods though, but it was super simple.
Yeah, I know that there's supposed to be a way to like transfer everything over the same network, but because it was using the group company account, and and I was using, we had to have it in the studio for security purposes and everything, and so it's like, all right, I don't really have. There's no way for me to test that until I get my personal one. But I am looking forward to going through that process and just like, okay, just pull it all off of the old guy and put it on the new guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the headset a little bit, or what are you thinking on that
Yeah,
guy?
the headset. I think it's so when I wear it compared to these headphones, I have like a little attachment for these headphones. It does not sound as good as these. But I think it sounds pretty dang good for the price point, which is like $100, and they're wireless.
Right.
The only thing is, I think after a while, like I'm talking like 4 hours, it started to like irritate my ears, kind of. Just like it wasn't as comfortable. I'm like, once again, not an audio expert or anything like that, but it was fine using it. The mute button does not mute. If you have the headphones on, you push mute on your controller, that does not work. You have to push it on your headset, actually, but there's just a little button, like
yeah, you have to kind of like memorize, right? It's got like all these controls all over it.
Yeah, you got your game balance and like your audio and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's pretty decent. I have no experience with the PS4 ones, kind of like in those same veins, so I don't know.
I want to say I had one on like PS3 a while back, because they just sort of had, essentially it's like they just sort of iterate on that same design with your wireless headphones. And I know some people are annoyed that it comes with a dongle that you have to plug into the USB port.
Right. I just put it in the back of the system because there's some ports there, so it's not really a big deal for me. But yeah, I think for the price, it's probably pretty reasonable.
Nice. And then, right now, that's sort of the extent of what we can talk about. We can talk about the interface, we can talk about Spider-Man, we can talk about Astro and backwards compatibility. What are some takeaways from you guys in particular, since I've been talking so much?
Just visually, the UI, I think it's interesting that, there's kind of like a centering on the PlayStation 4 of all of the icons, and they definitely kind of pushed all of that up out of the way. And so there definitely seems to be much more like pizzazz when it comes to like how each game is presented on like the meat of the screen, and so it's going to be interesting to see how some games, it's like if you're playing something on the Switch, it's just like I have this square, that's the game, and then I go straight into the game. Whereas like on the PlayStation 5, it's like, welcome to the Ratchet and Clank experience, and so it's interesting, especially the exclusives, like how they do that, how like what music plays, the kind of the vibe of how the PS5 changes when you like get into that, all of the extra specific details on each game. And I think as somebody who was like really into, got my hands on a PlayStation 5 like to play Spider-Man, when it got into the moments and the cards and stuff, I had like zero interest to like, I can use this to maximize my gaming experience. It's like, I'm set. Once I get into the game, I'm fine. It's just going to be interesting when I actually have multiple things on there, or maybe playing something like Fortnite or something where like I might have missed an event, like I might just be logging into the game and I got tunnel vision and the game's like, hey, remember there's this or this thing's happening this week, and like, good. Forgot that was happening. Like live service games and stuff might be fun.
Yeah. I noticed on the Cards Blood there wasn't like the video hints or anything in yet for many of the games I played, because I think I remember the Demon Souls devs recently talking about there's like 150 video clips they have in there, something to help people.
Wow.
Like, man, they're going all out on that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
I don't think we said this either, but there is no themes either anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're big on themes, you're going to be out of luck. Everything, I was kind of disappointed at first, but every game now that you hover over is kind of like almost its own theme.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the
Yeah, it
PS5
takes
ones
over
are
the
way
whole
more
screen, yeah.
elaborate. Like they play music and everything like that. Like it was like on PS4 when you'd push it down and you would get like a little nice background and stuff like that. It's just
Actually,
there by
it kind of
default
reminds
now.
me of PS3. Remember, like
Sure,
it used to
yeah.
be the same kind of thing, and because the reason I remember is some of those games had like just no sense of like how to put the volume on that menu, and so you would like click over to another game and would just blast your ears off. I'm like, why? Like Bionic Commando
yeah, it's like-
Rearmed or something would just be like blurring.
Auto streaming Netflix trailers. You're like, stop. Just want to watch
Yeah.
this thing. Stop yelling at me.
I mean, just the speed of that console has been super nice. Like
Yeah.
we were saying earlier, Spider-Man, like the fast travel's great. You know, one side of Manhattan, the other. It's just like
Yeah.
a couple seconds. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
The card things, I'm like, I kind of like. It's cool seeing like for me like trophies. Like this is your progress on this trophy. It's just a little easier way to look at it, I guess. But it's not like a huge thing for me. I hope you can customize it more down the line. I don't know if they're. I'm sure they're not done with all the stuff they're doing, but
For sure. Well, and I think it's worth noting that the storage on the PlayStation 5 in the studio is almost full.
oh sure, yeah, I'm sure you guys got that thing loaded.
Yeah, because I loaded up a bunch of those, that PlayStation Plus collection. There's a ton of games in there, a ton of PS4 games. I'm like, oh sure,
Yeah,
and I don't know why, like, because I think I had a whole different idea in my head of how this was going to go down, and like everybody's just going to go to the studio and everyone's going to play all the games, and like
Yes.
it's barely time for me to do that.
yeah.
But eventually, we'll get people will get in there and play Mortal Kombat or something.
Heck yeah.
But,
I'm really happy with the controller.
yeah.
And when I first held it, I was like, "Oh, this feels a little big than I'm used to."
It's bulkier than the DualShock, but it kind of fills in all the right spots on your hands.
But
Like,
exactly,
it's
it
cozy.
like I would hop back between PS4 and 5 for a lot of testing stuff, and I'd use the PS4 controller again. I'm like, "Oh, this feels kind of cramped almost." How much it would put my hands together
Yeah.
like that. 5 feels much more relaxed.
The whole surface of the top of the DualSense is just kind of like it's smooth and flat. There's not a lot of stuff sticking out, which is weird. I remember when I saw the face buttons, I was like, "Ooh, those almost look buried inside it." But then when I got on there, obviously that's like a pressing a lot of buttons real fast. Playing Spider-Man, there's a lot of punching and grabbing and stuff, and like just all it's like riding a bike. Especially even like playing a new game of a sequel, to something I played in 2018, like on a DualShock that got very cozy playing, controlling Spider-Man on that. And then just like within 5 minutes of Miles, I was like, this will do. This is great.
Yeah. And the last thing I guess is like, I haven't played the Series X yet, so I don't know like how things work on there, but the backwards compatibility on this has been pretty nice. It's been great having some games like upgraded.
Yeah.
Like when I played Ghost of Tsushima from like 30 to 60, I was like, whoa, this feels awesome. It was like when I played Witcher on a console compared to PC. It just felt like way different to me.
Yeah. No,
So-
it's definitely really nice on the Series X as well.
I hope they do more stuff with that down the line with a lot of games, like taking advantage of that. I could see first party stuff probably doing it more down the line.
Yeah.
But there's still games I have to test, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But
Gears
yeah, I've been-
5 and Forza Horizon 4 and Sea of
Yeah.
Thieves, like they all look just phenomenal on Series
Yeah,
X.
so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that so far. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple of things I want to go leave us with. Number one, I think that every console launch from here on out should have it as their goal to have something like Astro. This
To like
is-
showcase it.
It is such a, and like I know Nintendo has sort of attempted to do this, and like sometimes they've knocked it out of the park with like Wii Sports, and other times they haven't. But like Astro does such a great job of showing you what is cool about the PS5, and doing it in a way that doesn't just feel like here's a dumb tech demo. That like this is something that you want to go back and play. You feel like you want to find the secrets. You feel like you want to explore all of the crazy little things that they've got going on in it. It feels very rewarding, and it's just like, just within moments of that game booting up for the first time, it just felt joyful. Like even without the Easter eggs, like it's just so.
Yeah, it's like a showcase of what that system can do, and the controller especially, and it's a celebration of PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like throughout its lifespan. So I think if you're a PlayStation fan, you're gonna really like a lot of the stuff in this.
Cool.
Yeah, so like don't just skip over that because
Right.
you want to hop into Demon's Souls. Like take a breather now and then.
Oh, Astrobot's a great cool-off game.
Yeah, because you get through like a level in 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, the game's not very long.
Yeah. And then I hope Sony is looking at Quick Resume and trying to, implement something like that. Even if it's going to be like a year from now. Like
You could do a PS5. We believe in you.
I
got
don't
the
think
power.
I don't think there's any reason that they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, just sort of like when 360 came out and they had achievements and PS3 didn't have trophies.
Right.
It's like this is something that
Yeah.
I think is gonna be noticed and a noticeable difference between the two consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully Sony engineers are already like trying to be like, okay, what did they do? How do we do it? How do we, make those storage space allocations? Because Quick Resume does, like, if you go into like the storage management or whatever, like you do see like how much space Quick Resume takes up for a game. But I think especially for certain types of players that like a Huber, like playing something like MLB The Show or something, just like popping back and forth between games, it's gonna make a big difference.
Yeah, it definitely helps with the solid state in there. That for sure alleviates it, but I could definitely see that coming in the future.
Yeah, but then the advantage on the PlayStation 5 is that we've got some killer freaking new games, with Astro, with Spider-Man, with Demon's Souls, which we haven't got to play yet.
Right.
I know.
So everyone hoping for those Demon's Souls impressions.
Everyone's saying I'm playing it. I haven't been playing.
Yeah.
But I'll wrap things up. It's been a good talk. We are Easy Allies. We are a team of experienced critics who are independent, and we are funded by our fans. You can go to patreon.com/easyallies to support us. And if you're new and you have no idea why you want to support us, you can click subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell notification to check out the rest of our next gen coverage as these reviews start rolling out. And I've got these launch reports done. Like, and I was like, okay, I've got to start playing games.
Yeah.
I've got like
a
couple of reviews in mind.
Yeah.
Brandon, has just done 2 reviews, but he's got a third one that he needs to start after he moves.
On deck, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh God, I'm nervous.
Yeah, Huber's in the midst of a massive thing. Ben's in the midst of a massive thing. So there's a lot of next gen coverage. So hit that subscribe, hit that bell, and we will see you shortly. Review products provided by PlayStation.